What's up?
Not quite certain, sir, but it's messy. Kalima 2 tells us they have computer files from an ex-analyst of mine, Osborne Cox.
Kalima 2?
Our man in the Russian embassy. They were brought in to them by a woman.
The Russians?
Yeah, it was brought in by a woman named Linda Litsky, associate of a guy named Harry Farrer. Pictures in the file with Farrers.
The Russians?
Yeah.
Who's Farrer?
Treasury guy who has been screwing Mrs. Cox. That must be how they got the files. Or maybe Ozzy knows about him. They all seem to be sleeping with each other.
All right, spare me.
Yes, sir. But this Treasury guy, it's become complicated. He just shot somebody in Ozzy's house.
Shot your analyst?
No, Ozzy wasn't there. Our man surveilling hears a gunshot, sees the guy wrestle something into his car, follows him. He dumps a body in the Chesapeake Bay.
Well, what did he do that for?
Don't know, sir.
For Christ's sake, did anyone fish the body out?
Mm-hmm.
And Russian, American?
Don't know. Scrubbed of ID.
And this Linda
Litsky.
Yeah, she's Treasury?
No. We're fuzzy on her.
So we don't really know what anyone is after.
Not really, sir.
And this ex-analyst,
Cox.
Yeah. What's his clearance level?
3.
Okay. No biggie. For now, keep an eye on everyone, see what they do.
Yes, sir. And we'll interface with the FBI on this dead body.
No, God, no. We don't want those idiots bumbling around in this. Burn the body, get rid of it. And keep an eye on everyone, see what they do. Report back to me when, I don't know, when it makes sense.
Hey, I'm Kyle. Thanks for joining me and Andy for the Legendary Creature Podcast. So, if you're listening with your kids or your conservative grandma, maybe don't, because we swear.
Or you can check us out on YouTube, because hey, that's no place for conservative old women or children.
Fuck yeah.
Last stop.
Last stop.
This is our last stop for Guilds of
Ravnica.
Guilds of Ravnica Colorply Exploration.
Do we do people get around Ravnica riding on the backs of like giant worms?
Like a worm train?
Like a worm train?
I mean, we've seen crazier things, you know, as far as ways of transportation.
But this worm's going home. That sounds dirty. I'm gonna stop now.
I'm trying to think of how dirty that could be, like digested. I have a pretty dark mind. That's pretty fucked up what you just said. All right, so Dimir. Last stop on our Guilds of Ravnica tour. And then we're going to be off topic for a bit until we get...
Pause until we get the next cycle.
The next cycle. So, Blue and Black is Dimir.
Yes.
How do we want to describe it?
Well, let's just get out of the way what the first thing that comes to everybody's mind that's played Magic the Gathering for any period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Mill. I don't think Dimir needs to be, I don't know, cornered or painted into that corner, but it kind of is.
But it's been given that corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the first thing anyone's going to think of when it comes to Dimir is that it likes to affect the library.
Yeah.
Library denial.
To graveyard.
Yeah, card denial, direction through the library. Or
yes.
Card enabling, depending on who you're up against.
True.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous strategy to engage in. I'm very picky about when I bring Phenax to the table. Because
some decks like it and some decks...
Yeah, like
it does nothing and you're just waiting to finish your thing or whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's some decks where I'm like, I mean, you know, I'll kind of joke it off like, all right, well, you know, you're fucking playing Carador. Let me just rev you up. I'm going to play Fenax. It always backfires in that case, of course. But,
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Most of the time I try not to.
So that's what people usually think when they hear Dimir is mill. So if we think about what we've done so far.
Yeah, kind of break down what the colors add.
Yeah, so we've done Izzet, and I think like the first surface thing anyone thinks about with Izzet is Spellslinger, and then artifacts. Now, especially because we've been gifted kind of
pushed a little bit this year with some of the things.
We've been given a cadre of, you know, artifact-centered Izzet commanders.
Yeah.
We did Selesnya, and that one I feel like is tokens. I think is the first thing I think of when I think of tokens, when I think of Selesnya, but I guess the secondary would be just creatures matter. A lot of defensible creatures, more of a defensive type thing.
Yeah.
And then we talked about Boros, and other than complete dog shit in Commander, I think a lot of people, the first thing you're going to think is go wide strategy.
Right.
Go wide and go early.
Yeah, exactly.
And then what else am I missing?
That's
Golgari.
Oh yeah, we did Golgari.
We talked about Golgari, and I think the first thing anyone's going to think of when it comes to Golgari is Graveyard Matters.
Yeah, Graveyard Matters.
Graveyard Matters.
You might maybe get into some +1/+1 counter stuff.
Yeah, but Graveyard Matters is kind of the first thing. And then so here we are with Dimir, and when we're saying off the top of your head, first thing you think of, it's probably going to be mill.
It's mill.
But let's dig a little deeper, as we have in our previous episodes.
Yeah.
What we're talking about as far as the potential for Dimir versus the reality. So when we compare it to the rest of the color pie, we have two mechanically similar colors, if we're being just dead honest.
Yeah, actually.
So blue is, everyone knows its greatest asset, its greatest strength is its ability to get into its own library through card draw.
Yeah.
It's the king of card draw.
It has the best card draw available.
Right. And those are manifest very well with, I mean, I want to say some of the best ones are like Mystic Remora and Rhystic Study.
Yeah.
Like they're two permanent cards that will permanently, well, I mean, not Mystic Remora so much, depending on how committed you are to the cause, but they're permanents that house card draw.
If we're honest about Mystic Remora, it should provide you a burst of card draw over the course of a couple rounds of the table.
Yeah. For its mana cost, it should give you quite a bit.
Yeah.
Way more than a Brainstorm will probably give you for the same mana. They have quick draw cantrips. So at the lowest mana cost, blue has the best card draw in that it usually just replaces itself. I don't think there is a 1 mana card out there that will draw you a card in black, other than there's a couple things, but not something that's like, hey, look at the top 3 and then put them back in any order, then draw a card like we've got in Ponder, or push them down to the bottom of the library, then draw a card. Like Ponder is probably one of the more complicated spells in the game.
In terms of how to
how many different outcomes there can be from Ponder. Like there's a lot of different outcomes.
Yeah,
you
that's
look
true.
At the top 3, keep them, sort them in any order, or ditch them, then draw. Like there's a lot of outcomes.
Yeah,
there
is.
Same with Preordain. And then you kind of go up to the higher mana range. You've got like Dig Through Time.
Mm-hmm.
That card is bonkers. Factor Fiction is bonkers. So blue,
you can do things like Treasure Cruise and things like that.
Right. We'd be here all day if we were listing off all the great card draw that blue has. But then second place, I think in who's good at drawing cards was probably tied betwin black
and green.
Green is dependent on a creature being present.
Yeah, green has circumstances that it needs in order to satisfy. I had a
number of creatures.
I had a game this weekend where I had like Rishkar's expertise in my hand, but I didn't have a creature on the battlefield.
So you're like, so this is dead.
Kind of boned.
Yeah, it's a dead card.
Yeah.
Black doesn't run into that. Black just wants you to have life.
Right.
Or a creature. I guess there's like, Altar's Reap.
Sure.
So black wants you to pay something plus the mana to get a card draw, which you're more than willing to do.
Yeah, exactly.
And kind of what we said before is that in Commander, this is almost like a non-issue because of your starting life total.
Yeah.
So I think the mythology around having 40 life is a little bit pushed. There is a limit to your life, especially with people managing it for you, meaning your opponents.
Yeah.
But you know, generally one would hope that these cards are designed around a 20 card life total, and now we've doubled that.
Exactly.
So you're getting double the value really in black.
So
So
even if you can draw yourself just an extra few cards over the course of a game, like that's advantage that something like Boros that we talked about last week
could only dream of,
does not even come close to having.
they would love to have something like Read the Bones.
Yeah.
So kind of going back to what I was trying to say, mechanically they're similar in that they both like to get into your library one way or the other. Black will do it through tutoring. I guess if you're leaning on strengths, you would use your black to tutor and then your blue to draw.
Yeah.
You could marry the two and do some of the really better black draw spells that give you good card advantage, I guess, and then probably just the best blue to get into your library. If you're just leaning on the strengths.
Yes.
I think like if I want to describe the color identity though, it's more of a feeling than a function, the way Dimir actually works. Like Dimir is more of like a thought experiment than it is an actual like something in practice. It's a theory, not an experiment.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's true. And I guess maybe to take the next step, like we're talking about what are their strengths, like getting, you just described a lot of, you know, like getting at your deck type of a thing, which I think is kind of sets the stage for why Mill seems like a natural fit for Dimir. But I also tend to think of they're both very controlling colors.
Well, yeah, tempo-y,
right?
Very tempo-y.
Yeah, like they're exactly.
Because any color I think can probably maybe short of green isn't gonna. I mean, there is green.
Yeah, I mean green
control with artifacts and enchants.
Yeah, green has that, and
but blue is very narrow, like low to the ground.
Exactly.
Like as far as mana.
Black
goes.
has a wide variety of removal spells, creature removal spells specifically.
Yeah.
That are. It's just super easy.
Like that new Fleshbag Marauder, like that is probably one of the most power creep cards I've seen in a while.
Oh yeah.
Thing is just it gets at their hand, it gets at their planeswalker, or it gets at their creature.
Exactly.
If they can't answer all of those questions, it's gonna make them answer.
Yeah, like you're gonna find some way somehow that you're
pretty much. Yeah, the
this.
only time that card does nothing is if they have no cards in hand, no creatures, and no planeswalkers. And it's like, did you really?
You didn't need to do anything to that person.
Was the other
anyways.
guys you were focused on when you shot it.
Yeah,
I can't even remember the name of it, but you know the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So, but like, kind of what I was trying to get across is like, in theory, a lot of this should work for the color pairing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I just want to build like this card draw insane deck that tutors and draws cards and I can put together things. And it's like, we don't really have a lot of tools at our disposal to make that happen. I think in theory, Dimir is cooler in theory than it is in practice. At least up until now. We've been given a really great commander for it.
Yeah.
Which we probably need to talk about to some of the things that we saw with that too, because we've had one wake up in our play group. The new Lazav.
Sure.
But am I making sense? Like what I'm trying to say? Like I think it's a thought experiment, not something that's actually happening.
Well, sure. I mean,
the other parts of Dimir that aren't manifest in the commanders that we have access.
Yeah. No,
to.
that's actually true. Why don't you express that idea though? Like that the commanders maybe don't necessarily reflect that.
Yeah. So like
that aspect.
Yeah. Like kind of just pinning all of the things that I want to, like if somebody was like, give me what Dimir is good at. Yeah. We'll start with the card draw. We've got black for tutoring, blue for card draw. We've got evasive creatures. That's the other thing. Like they have high evasion in that category. There's some evasive black creatures with fear, menace, shadow. There's just flat out unblockable blue creatures that are very low to the ground. There's hand denial in that you can go in and duress them or go in and despise, or there's discard, like discard,
mind slice. You can do all kinds of things,
and then even if whatever makes it past all of that, you can counter it. So like this kind of says what you're saying. Like it's a control-y color combo.
Yeah,
but none. If we go to the roster on EDH Rec, right, the top. And these aren't all the Dimir commanders that exist, but if we go to what EDH Rec has as for Dimir, the top one is Fennex.
Yeah. Because
he's just the best mill source in the game. There's not a faster way to deck somebody than with what he's doing. Right? He basically turns all the creatures you've got, including to himself, into a mill
tap
engine. Tap and mill. So at instant speed, after you've dumped all of your card control on somebody, you can just start decking them. And I've lost plenty of games to this guy.
Yeah.
The next one down is Jisn Geralf, which we kind of did this too. So
yeah, we've seen this.
Yeah, I mean, with every color pairing, you kind of, and even with every color, you have kind of like a theme of their creature identity. Comes
like
with
a tribe that fits with
a tribe that fits it. So for Izzet, it's wizards and artificers. With Selesnya, it seems like it's fucking anything.
Yeah,
it's
I mean, you could do elves and soldiers. And things like that.
So with here, you've got kind of a zombie thing. Like more zombies show up in black and blue. And if this is especially true because of Innistrad. So this is why Jissa and Geralf show up.
Yeah, exactly.
As 1,250 decks. There's a zombie tribal deck. And then down from there, you've got...
But like by the same... Well, go ahead. Finish.
But down from there, you've got the Scarab God, which he's kind of an oddball. On the surface, you would think, okay, yeah, he's zombie tribal because of his first ability about, scrying and damaging people. But really, he's more interested in benefiting from creatures going to the yard to make clones of them. That's my opinion on him. I think he's better for a control commander that kind of steals people, rides the backs of people's creatures a little bit.
I like that too.
And then the
number 4.
Number 4 is the old Lazav, who is kind of the same thing, except for instead of you shifting a creature into a 4/4 token, you're just kind of having your hexproof commander become that.
Yeah.
So creature removal, denial, card draw, like he actually fits into this pretty well. If I go in and rip a creature from your hand and ditch it,
now Lazav can become
Lazav becomes that. So he actually does kind of, I think, lean on removal, discard, hand denial kind of stuff.
Sure.
Even mill. He likes mill too. That's probably the most cost-effective way to get things in the yard is just fucking mill them.
Oh, yeah.
And then, we start falling out of the 1000s with Una, who's, I think she's kind of, I honestly see her as the same, she's in the same box as Fenix. Rather than mill, it's exile.
Yeah, exactly.
And making tokens.
Exactly.
And hoping that you have a bunch of mono decks.
I had Una in my Fenix list for a long time.
Yeah.
And
then you have your old school zombie Voltron in Grimgrin. So he kind of got uptick, like kind of power creeped by some of these other guys, honestly. But he's his own thing. He goes infinite. But then as soon as you go down from there, you fall into...
And there's a steep drop off after that too.
Yeah, you lose like 300 decks and fall into Vela the Nightclad. So things kind of become more of Dimir as a concept rather than Dimir in practice. So I think like the first people are, this is what you can do in practice. This is what you can do as an experiment.
Yeah.
But once you fall onto Vela, you're looking at Dimir as a thought experiment. Dimir as an ideology.
It's really true.
So
which
she's
is
like,
very reflective of what Dimir is in terms of story, right? Like they barely exist. They're just kind of a rumor.
Yeah, if we're talking about the guild. Yeah, the guild Dimir. Yeah, that's where we're at. So I don't know. Do you feel like that packages the...
I think it does. I think it does package what the commanders kind of provide and how, like you say, like you kind of fall into this sort of thought experiment after you get past sort of the commanders that really desperately want you to mill.
Yeah. So far, I feel like out of all the color pairings we're going with, I think functionally this one has yet to achieve its goal in the game. So I think Boros achieves its goal very well in other formats. There's been times when there's been standard, block standards where the Boros deck was, or the Naya version, or something with Boros as the main artery of the deck.
Yeah,
was doing what it was supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly.
It's happened with Dimir. There's been blue-black fairies, like that's happened. But
sure.
I still don't know as far as the theme of these color pairings has realized what it's been trying to do.
Yeah, and I really don't know. I mean, the deck that I'll share tonight, like it kind of, it's sort of drawing, I guess, I'm drawing a little bit from sort of the concept.
I think our two decks are more on the theoretical Dimir, not the in practice Dimir.
Yeah.
I think the new Lazav is a solid.
It's a way good commander.
It's a way good commander. I think the old Lazav is too. I think Fenix is I think Una is if you can pull off the ultimate or the infinite.
Oh yeah.
But then I think there's the other side, and I don't know. I guess you could argue that all the color combinations are like that. But you go to something like Izzet, and it's pretty clear what they're asking you to do. Orzhov, we haven't even gone to Orzhov yet, but Orzhov is almost like its own color at this point.
It really is.
It's kind of doing its own thing.
It really is.
Those color pairings are so married That
Oh yeah, like the only thing you could ask for is just to have more legends in Orzhov. That's the only thing. You know what they want to do.
Yeah, they're kind of fatiguing the life gain, life drain thing. So
yeah.
Hopefully that makes sense. Like how we're seeing this color pair, because we have our own ideas about this. Like as I've been listening to other people's coverage of this block set, it's either been, let's just give you a cool deck from what's out of there, like just came out.
Yeah,
I don't think a lot of them are trying to contextualize the color pairing. It might just be something that's a little kind of an old school topic, honestly.
Maybe it is.
This has been explored. It was probably explored to its end back in 2013 when the second visit to Ravnica happened. But you and I are like, let's kind of backbone it to our monocolored series where we tried to like contextualize what these colors are about, what these pairings are about, what your options are for commanders are.
I think it's important as a deck builder to understand these principles though, right? Because, here we're bumping into, like, if you want to play Dimir, we've been seeing a high density of Dimir commanders in our play group recently.
Yeah. So we've got this guy that's been playing with us he's a fairly new addition, year and a half.
Sure. He's been on a couple times.
You always have this person that gravitates towards a certain, like when I'm talking to people who don't know anything about Magic, I start with the color wheel,
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's what I'll do. I'll say this. I'll say, you are a wizard and you've come here to do battle against another wizard, right?
Yeah.
Because they don't know anything about planeswalkers and whatever.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to put it.
Yeah, so this is what you do. And you have tools at your disposal to do that. And how you choose to use the magic system in the game of Magic, the channels of which you can do that come in the 5 color pairing. So I'll go around the wheel and describe each one of them, kind of like, what their philosophy is, but then what actually ends up manifesting itself in the deck and how it might relate to their philosophy. So like, to give an idea, like red is very impulsive. It's emotion driven.
Yeah.
And Chandra obviously like embodies that almost perfectly. Like she embodies the color identity. Yeah. She's this impulsive, annoying, fire crotch. That's what she's into. Right. But then I think mechanically, like the lightning bolt is like that. It's a very quick spell that does a lot of damage for its mana, but it's only happening once. It's not something that you can rely on, like at any time at all times. It's like a bolt of lightning. Like that's how it is.
Yeah.
And then inevitably the conversation will drift into them asking, well, can you just use all 5 colors? And to which I say yes, but then I tell them, what the consequence of that is that you're battling half your deck just to get to the 5 colors.
Yeah, like then you become diffuse trying to
I start to kind of try to coalesce that, and I never really take it further than that. I usually talk about the monocolors, and then every time they're going to ask, what's the most expensive mana card? Or sorry, most expensive Magic card? What's the most powerful Magic card? And then can I use all 5 colors? So
that's really funny.
That's about anybody who you're just talking to them about the game and they might not ever gain interest in it. But then as soon as they gain interest in it, what they want is something that fits their identity. I feel
because Magic the Gathering is, a geek's personality test, right?
Sure.
Like,
it's a little bit of a personality test.
Because you, me, and Brad all started about the same time, and you pretty quickly turned into Izet. Like it was just kind of
it resonates with me. It's disorganized. Like, but yet it's got this charm to it, I guess. Like
Brad kind of fits under this bigger umbrella of Jund, where he really leaned into Golgari for a while. He was really into Rakdos for, and he kind of vacillates between those 3 colors. I was really into kind of Naya a little bit, but mostly Selesnya, and then mostly just white, honestly. And kind of surrounding that kind of stuff. And yeah. Everybody has a profile for themselves. They're kind of looking to match.
Some bitch came along and fucked with your heart, and now you're all about Orzhov.
It's true. It's true.
So yeah, like people want to they want to identify with what they're doing. It's a little bit of a vicarious role play into the game.
Yeah.
So this new guy, like, to kind of bring this back, like he likes Dimir, right? He's like, he likes to know more than everybody, and he likes to whatever he identifies with Dimir, that's like his thing. But he's running into pretty much what you're going to run into. The commanders that you've got available the ones in practice aren't all that thrilling comparative to the ones that in theory this should work, but like we'll see if we can do it. But when they're put up against other established commanders that have been developed and their strategies or their lines of play are solid and easy to pull off. So like to give, like he just made a Circu deck. Remember this? He made a Circu.
Yeah, did so we have our Lantern.
We have our little budget league going on where we have like a budget limit and we play budget league every time we get together to play. And he has a budget Circu list. And he's looking to try to do Lantern control in a budget format, which if you look at the non-budget Circu, it's extremely expensive. It needs a lot of hardcore pieces, and he's just not going to do that.
So but he's budget was a good place to do it.
So I was talking about it today, and he's just like, he's discouraged, man. Like you can see it in his face. Like this guy, he's hard to discourage, but he's like, man, I want a Dimir experience. But that's what he's looking for. He's looking for the theory of Dimir, and he wants to grab onto it and bottle it up. And I just don't know if it's out there yet.
Right. Because I like the idea of mill. That was one thing that I latched onto early.
Yeah, so if you like the idea of mill, you have no problem.
Yeah.
But if you don't like the idea of mill...
I've built my Phenax deck. I've got it on the shelf. I very rarely feel like I need to add different cards to it. It's pretty solid. It does what it wants to do. And yeah, it has a blind spot, but...
Yeah, and he doesn't want to do mill, whatever. So the voyage continues. Like the exploration continues.
But the point that I guess I'm trying to make, and then we can maybe dive into our decks a little bit here, is that I think it is actually important to talk about the identity of these color pairings, because as a deck builder, the idea that you have for them can be different from the practice, right?
Yes.
And so I think it's important to identify that. It saves you a little bit of time, suffering in your deck building process if you understand what you have to work with.
Because a lot of these cards are corner case, like they're not universally. I mean, not everyone. I mean, I don't know. Like, there's once you buy your brainstorm, like you've got one for what? Yeah, but there's some of these cards they're pretty heavily leaning in one direction.
You're only going to use them in one place.
Yeah,
you know, like you and I have decks that we've taken pieces out of them, and there's a bunch of other cards just laying around because there's no other place they belong.
Yeah, like they rotate, but
yeah.
Okay.
So
what do you got for me?
So I've got one of the new commanders that came out of Guilds of Ravnica.
Oh, that's good. We're actually gonna
we're actually gonna stay on theme here. And it's Etrata, the Silencer. I guess we might be disappointing some people that it's not Lazav, but you and I have talked about it. There's a lot of coverage on Lazav from other content creators.
Yeah, I think before we go, we'll throw out some ideas that might go into your Lazav deck that we've seen. I don't know if other people have covered it, but there's some neat ideas that we saw. I honestly, like, once I saw the Tolarian Community College video on it, I was like, this is pretty good.
Yeah, like we don't need to. This is
a pretty neat deck, and that was it. Sorry, but it's like, you know. And it ain't an hour long like our dumbass thing.
Yeah, exactly. You can get through that pretty quickly. You don't have to get through some long ass discussion about the ethereal idea of Dimir before you actually get to the substance.
You can get that deck understood, you know, before your morning shit's over and get ready for work. But for us, it's like you're gonna be late. You know, you're gonna be late. You can't really come around with us.
Yeah, you better have a long commute.
Okay.
So Etrata, the Silencer. Let me read it off, and then let me take you down the road that I've been blazing with this one.
Yeah, how's that been going, man?
It's a little bit weird, and I'll illustrate some differences here between what I'm seeing illustrated on EDH Rec and what I think we can do. And this is where, you know, when you're operating with theory, it can be fun.
Hell yeah, it can.
So
when it works out, even marginally, you're like, man, whatever, I'm trailblazing. But then other times it's like, this isn't gonna fucking work.
Then you have to come back and be like, guys, that didn't fucking work. Not at all. Okay, so Etrata the Silencer. It's 2, a blue and a black.
Okay.
For a vampire assassin. The body on this thing is a 3/5. Etrata the Silencer can't be blocked. That's pretty cool. Straight up can't be blocked. I'm into that. Whenever Etrata deals combat damage to a player, exile target creature that player controls and put a hit counter on that card. That player loses the game if they own 3 or more exiled cards with hit counters on them. Etrata's owner shuffles Etrata into their library. This one's really weird.
Oh, hell yeah.
Right? Like if you're a hipster, dude, go buy yourself an Etrata the Silencer and go to town. You're gonna be getting your hipster juices
Voltron.
off. So I think something to do here is to kind of ask ourselves the question, like, what does Etrata the Silencer want?
To hit them 3 times.
Hit somebody 3 times.
Oh, and they better control a creature that
and
can
they need 3
end up in
creatures
exile.
that are not their commander.
Or a token.
Yes. So
that's it. That's all she wants.
That's
maybe
all she
double
wants.
strike to have that happen a little quicker. Maybe the tuning fork.
Yeah. So we'll talk about some of those types of things. But what I want to preface this with right now is just to say that's a pretty narrow window to fly through.
Oh yeah. So the hoop she's asking you to jump through is pretty specific.
Yeah.
But the payoff
is big because it's just straight up.
They're gone.
That player loses the game.
But then
you shuffle Etrata the Silencer into your deck, which you can do a replacement effect with this and put her in the zone.
Why is that part there? Like that's the part that just,
It's a little weird.
Yeah.
I think it might be interesting to explore putting her in the 99 of a deck, because then you could potentially just keep trying to pull this off with her.
I mean, I guess just get my girl out, dude. Get Phage in there.
Yeah, get Phage in there. Let's do that.
Of course, Phage isn't unblockable.
Yeah, so Etrata does have that. Like the benefit of being unblockable is pretty sweet.
Okay.
So one of the things that I think is kind of, I like to ask myself whenever I'm building a deck list is, do I have room for a sub theme with a deck? And
sub theme or a sub
strategy?
Yeah,
maybe is a better way to put it.
I want to hear theme. I think like, it's a zombie deck with a sub theme of hats,
right?
Or Michael Jackson or something.
That's a good point. So
versus a strategy, which like it's a zombie theme with or a zombie deck with a mill sub theme or a sub strategy where I'm going to deck somebody.
So if we're looking at Etrata, she doesn't necessarily have a lot that she needs in order for her strategy to do what it wants to do.
She's already unblockable.
She's unblockable, so you don't need to bestow that.
Okay.
You could add some things that provide hexproof or shroud.
That's pre-programmed into a lot of decks already.
Yeah,
right?
it's pretty programmed into a lot of decks. Plus, you're playing blue, so if anybody's playing spot removal,
just counter that
you have
shit.
counter spells, so you're probably just going to lean on that.
Okay.
So there's things that are already going to be present in your deck just by virtue of playing the colors and playing commander.
That you don't need to lean that hard on.
You don't really need to lean that hard into it.
So maybe that's where the value is with her, is that she's prepackaged enough.
Yeah, that you just you kind of have a lot of latitude to just maybe get, like I said, build a second strategy into the deck. Now, if you're just focusing on this, and this is what I think people are doing, and so if you look at EDH Rec, there aren't that many decks there.
Yeah.
But what you see a lot of people doing on EDH Rec with Etrata is they're trying to avoid that problem of her getting put away, of her getting shuffled into your library or
ghostly
rezoned.
flicker and that kind of thing.
So they're using a lot of things like that to ghostly flicker her, or ninjutsu is another thing that I see popping up.
Yeah, that would work.
That people are using.
The ninjutsu trigger won't go off.
The ninjutsu trigger won't go off because you need her trigger to go off, but you can get her replaced by a ninjutsu type card.
Okay, yeah.
So that she pops to your hand, and so you're evading taxes that way. So then you see some other things like people using Blade of Selves and the Mirror Gallery, which I'll get into,
to speed up her
speed up the process.
So wait, would that Blade of Selves work though?
You would need the Mirror Gallery with it to do that.
Oh, that's a stretch.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, all right. I get what you're trying to. I'm picking up what you're putting down, my dude.
So I think you're going to find yourself putting in a lot of, if you're going down that route of I'm just focused on her strategy only, you're going to have a deck full of cards that probably don't have a lot of value independent of her.
Okay.
Right? So if she gets zoned a couple times, you're probably out of the game. You know, like you're just in this difficult position. So what I would like to propose, and I mentioned this when we did our review, is that we do a sub strategy with her that includes pressure. But before I get into that, I kind of want to, I'm taking the Under Pressure song and kind of applying that theme to my deck list here. So, so first of all, we've got our cards that I'm going to call the Pressing Down on You.
It's the fear of
So this is pressing down on you, specifically Etrata, like just trying to support Etrata to do things with.
Normally I hate shit like this, but you know, the song's so dope. It
is so good.
I can't stop you.
So you mentioned it, the Tuning Fork, the Strionic Resonator. It's 2 mana for an artifact that has an activated ability of 2 and tap copy target triggered ability you control. You may choose new targets for that copy. So now with a combat phase, she gets in, she's unblockable. She gets in, she does her damage. We have the trigger where we exile a creature with a counter on it, right?
Okay.
And we can now do that with 2. We can do that twice. So now basically she's on the 2-hit clock. If you've got a Strionic Resonator, you can end somebody.
Plus it's more, you know, I mean, you could use that ability somewhere else. I'm sure there's other things in the deck where, hey, I'll twin this trigger.
Exactly. So you can do that.
Okay. I'm down with that.
Sakashima, the Imposter. So if I can find my creatures. So Sakashima, the Imposter, 2 and 2 blue. As Sakashima, the Imposter comes into play, you may choose a creature in play. If you do, Sakashima, the Imposter is a copy of that creature, except its name is Sakashima, the Imposter. It's still legendary, and it gains pay 2 and 2 blue, return Sakashima, the Imposter to its owner's hand at the end of turn. So it's functionally a second copy of Etrata that...
Yeah, the Mirror Gallery was a tribute to this guy. They built the Mirror Gallery in tribute of Sakashima's, thespian profession.
So
I love that guy.
Talking about that, this is not a combo that I included in combo synergy, I guess is more appropriate, that I included in my deck list, but you might consider it. So you mentioned the Mirror Gallery. It says it's 5 mana for an artifact that says the legend rule doesn't apply.
Yeah.
Blade of Selves is 2 mana for an equipment, and it has 4 for an equip cost. So if you're counting, we're up to 11 mana to get this whole thing online.
I don't like that one.
Equipped creature has Myriad, which, if you're not familiar with Myriad, it says whenever it attacks for each opponent other than the defending player, you may create a token that's a copy of that creature that's tapped and attacking that player or planeswalker they control. Exile the tokens at the end of combat.
Isn't the Mirror Gallery it's not even like a cheap card.
It's $14.
Yeah, see, I don't like this. That's too much.
Yeah, I don't have it in my list.
Because it's too cornered. But you could do it if you
could
want.
do it if you again, so if we're talking
you'd
about...
have to make the whole deck where are you going to get that benefit ever again? Cloning her, I guess, in other ways. Like you just load the deck full of clones.
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah.
It's a corner thing. I think it's something that you're really focusing on. Like if you're really focused on her, which, let's be honest, like there's a lot of opponents that you're going to play against that won't have valid targets for you.
Yeah, the token guy ain't going to help you.
Yeah, like the Izet Spell Slinger's not going to help you.
No, I'm going to hate you. It's going to be annoying that you keep picking off my
then all that happens is you functionally have a removal spell on your commander. You're not actually forwarding your win mechanism.
Okay, yeah.
If you're doing that.
Yeah, I get it.
So I'm not as into that as I think others might be. Helm of the Host, of course, would work.
Yeah, that's
sense. A lot easier because it's one card that's going to produce this outcome. So Helm of the Host, 4 for an equipment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a token that's a copy of the equipped creature, except that token isn't legendary.
That card makes better sense than trying to abuse the Mirror Gallery.
Also, that token gains haste, so boom. Yeah, you're in. It's a one card that I think just does it. The other thing... So Fire Shrieker, I think you mentioned this one as well. So we're trying to achieve double strike.
Whap, whap.
So Fire Shrieker is 3 mana for an equipment. Equipped creature has double strike. You equip for 2. Mm-hmm. It's much more, that's actually in line with your curve if you have that in your opening hand. So you cast Etrata on turn 4, Fire Shrieker on the turn thereafter. You cast for 3, equip for 2. You're on curve with that one.
Or on the way up. Either or.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing that you can do, since we're in the colors, is you can kind of lean into extra turn spells. The ones that I put in here, just because I thought like, hey, why not be an ass about it? Expropriate.
Don't hold back. Christ.
Yeah, 7 and 2 blue for Council's Dilemma. Starting with you, each player votes for time or money. Time is an extra turn. Money is you take a permanent from the person that voted for.
Yeah, you will always vote time.
I will always vote time because I don't want to take a permanent from myself.
So yeah, unless it's
everybody else that's wise will vote money.
They will vote money if they're wise.
If they're wise. I hated this because Andy used it for a while and then
there's always the debate. We act all snobby like, oh, we've got such, forward thinking advanced players. There's always a debate. There's always somebody who doesn't want to vote money.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, I don't want to, he's going to take my.
Well, no, because like
it's either that or he takes the game. So which?
Yeah, like the value of extra turns usually means game winning. So would you rather just regress your own board state or lose?
Yeah.
Temporal Mastery.
Etrata, that might be readily evident. Like, you'll give him 4 extra combats. Like, he'll take your game then.
Oh, yeah. I put in Temporal Mastery, on the off chance we might miracle for that at the right time.
Mm-hmm. Well, you put all your money on the Expropriate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's you can scale that. There's a lot of extra turn spells available.
Yeah, there's a ton.
Like put in however many you want. Those are just some more.
I just don't like the ones that they cost so much that they are their own turns.
Oh yeah.
Like it was like, cool, it's a big ass draw spell and an extra combat or 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, so what is it, time stretch? Like unless you can cheat time stretch, it's
you just spend all your turn on that.
It's kind of a lot, but it does give you 2 extra turns.
But the thing is those spells make a lot more sense in a deck like this because you just need the combat. Like you don't really need to develop anything else. You're just looking for the combats with Etrata, right? Like I'm with you because there's decks where I'm like watching, like, why the fuck did you cast?
It's always
an extra turn spell.
Like, it's always been like a card I've avoided. Like in Mizzix, man. I mean, come on, like it's not a problem for me to buy.
Oh, I know, right?
Turns.
I know, man. Ugh.
Yeah.
So I don't like I said to kind of start off. I don't think you need to put in like a huge support package for her, because here's my strategy with Etrata and with what I'm trying to do.
Okay,
I want to latch on to one person with Etrata, the person who brings the deck to the table that has the most creature heavy strategy.
So the Boros player, hell yeah, dude, get him out.
Yeah, we're gonna punish you for playing Boros even more. Thanks for casting creatures, buddy. I'm gonna put him in the cage.
Okay. Put him in the cage.
Because I think it's reasonable to think that you can eliminate one person with Etrata. I don't think it's reasonable
to get your hit counters off them.
Yeah. I don't think it's reasonable that you're going to get multiple people out with Etrata. So pick one, do that. So that then opens the question,
what the hell are you going to do then?
How are you going to win, Kyle? If you're planning on only killing one person, well, this is my real suicide deck, Andy. I'm going to kill myself after that. No, just no. This is where we get into the pushing down on me, as opposed to just pressing down on you.
Oh my God. All right.
And by pushing down on me, I mean everybody's getting pressured, because that's kind of the thing with pressure, right? Like, it's punishing me too. I'm losing life too, guys.
So another pressure deck reveals itself.
Another pressure deck reveals itself. Now, this is where the kind of like what Andy's
I get it. Under pressure.
About.
I get it.
Yeah.
It's finally making sense.
So this is where I think what Andy's talking about, Dimir in theory, right?
Pressure is something they could do.
Pressure, I think, is very appealing to me with these colors, because you have obviously a whole package of things in black that you can do that is going to discard people, that's going to make them lose life, that's going to make them lose creatures, all kinds of stuff that's going to happen there.
You can use blue to deny their removal spells when they get sick of your painful quandary or whatever.
Yeah, you have counter spells that make it so that people can't get rid of what you're doing. But also you can also do things that just sort of tempo as well. So, you know, I mean, things like propaganda that make it so it's harder for them to attack you without spending into getting at you.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, obviously, like if you're playing any blue deck, like putting Rhystic Study in is a good idea, but I think it's particularly helpful if you're trying to pressure people.
Yeah. Now they have to pay more to not give you cards.
Exactly.
That you probably will have to discard.
Sure.
If it's something symmetric, like a Necrogen Miss or something. But
exactly.
You're ahead on that.
But if we think about it,
exchange.
like, okay, I've got Oppression out and Pestilence, or Oppression and Propaganda, or sorry, Rhystic Study.
Yeah.
So now you're having to discard a card and pay 1 to keep me from drawing an extra card just to cast your 1 spell. Like there's a lot of synergy.
There's an inequity there for sure.
Between blue and black that can kind of make pressure just, it really hurt.
This is kind of why I think Sig River Cutthroat falls on this pretty okay.
Yeah.
I think most people were like, yeah, this was our ninja tribal commander.
Pressure's probably going to get you that 3 damage more consistently, right?
Yeah, maybe. Breath Stealer's Crypt exists.
Yeah. So let's just go through some of the pressure cards that I chose. The you know, the whole pushing down on me. Ankh of Mishra, artifact, 2 mana. Whenever a land enters the battlefield, Ankh of Mishra deals 2 damage to that land's controller.
Okay.
It's dealing damage to all of us, guys. Ward of Bones. This is one of my favorite pressure cards, honestly. Kind of. I mean, it's equity, right?
Doesn't this one kind of like non-bow your commander a little bit?
No, so let's pause and talk about that for a second here. So some of what I'm going to express here in terms of pressure absolutely non-bows my commander.
Okay.
Abso-fucking-lutely. But here's what I think is going to happen. Like, I anticipate, this is me like really just hoping that I'm playing into people's heads as best as I can. The person, if by latching onto the person that has the more creature-centric deck with Etrata, I'm either going to end them or I'm going to make it so they can't play.
Okay.
Either way is a victory for me.
I guess, yeah.
So if they're not advancing their game because they need to get creatures out, like I envision there being a point where, okay, they've taken 2 hits from Etrata. Maybe there's a board wipe that's come out and I get Etrata established again and they just don't cast creatures. Fine.
You're okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
Okay, I get it.
Absolutely okay with that.
So you're using like the implication of Etrata
exactly
landing her last hit on them.
Because if Etrata doesn't finish them, the pressure will.
Okay, I get it.
And so I think it requires.
This is definitely theoretical.
It is theoretical, and I think it requires playing with some.
Definitely,
you have
theoretical.
To be judicious.
Dimir here,
you have to be judicious about this because you can definitely put yourself in a position where you're just playing stuff out of your hand, and then you realize that like you've put yourself in a position where you can't end somebody with Etrata when maybe you could have.
Okay.
So gotta be selective about how we do this. But Ward of Bones, 6 mana for an artifact. Each opponent who controls more creatures than you can't play creature cards. The same is true for artifacts, enchantments, and lands. I've played this in my Erebos list.
That card is so white, dude.
To great effect. Yeah, it is a great equalizer for sure. For sure. Because invariably when you have it in a pressure deck.
That's like no running next to the pool. That's what that card is.
Oh, yeah.
No running. No running.
Like the Ward of Bones, I love because it favors you so deeply. Because most of the time people aren't playing the balance of enchantments or artifacts or creatures that you are. You know, so you're limiting their gameplay.
But you're the benchmark for that card.
Well,
it's just
right.
Then you.
Yeah.
So you're allowed to.
But if somebody's playing if they're playing an artifact deck, and I'm not playing very heavy artifacts, but I got Ward of Bones in there.
Then I can't continue.
Now you can't progress. If you're playing a creature heavy deck and I'm mostly artifacts and enchantments, you can't progress.
Reddy can progress though.
That's true. Because you're not playing them, right?
I ain't playing shit.
I'll get around it. Breath Stealer's Crypt.
Yeah.
So this is a straight up a Dimir pressure card. So 2, a blue and a black for an enchantment. Whenever any player draws a card, he or she reveals that card. If the card is a creature card, that player pays 3 or discards the card. So we're getting a little bit of telepathy here, a little bit. We're starting
not as annoying, but
not quite as annoying, but we're getting to see what people are drawing.
Yeah.
So if you're keeping a list of what people are doing. Underworld Dreams. Just going to punish people for drawing cards. So whenever an opponent draws a card, this one it's hard to pick putting into multicolored decks because it's 3 black.
Yeah.
But
is it opponent draws a card?
So whenever an opponent draws a card,
because it's asymmetric.
Underworld Dreams deals 1 damage to him or her. So this is if you've ever played a pressure strategy, the goal is to be the person that just has a slightly higher life total than everybody else. So cards like Underworld Dreams help you accomplish that.
Right. And what is a good chunk of everyone's deck? Card draw.
Exactly. Yeah. So
you've turned all of their brainstorms. You've turned all of their Rishkar's expertise.
Yeah, Rishkar's expertise, like those things
into
are
burn
just
spells that aren't even in your deck.
Exactly. Like they're doing the work for you. Tainted Ether.
You bastard, really?
2 and 2 black. So again, this is a non-bow with Etrata in a sense. So we have to be judicious about cards like this. So 2 and 2 black for an enchantment. Whenever a creature comes into play, its controller sacrifices a creature or land. So I'm okay either direction.
That one's rough.
Like Tainted Ether is rough.
Yeah.
I didn't put the one in that has the activated ability that opponents can play where they skip their next turn.
Yeah, because somebody will all vote to do it.
Yeah, and everyone agrees to back off that person.
That one is a pretty fucking annoying unifier.
Yeah.
Like, okay, Putty, you skip your turn and we'll leave you alone.
Yeah, because everybody agrees that they'll leave you alone.
I'd ask for 2 turns. I'd be like, I get 2 turns because I'm losing
I think
one.
so. I think you're right.
Yeah.
Painful Quandary, 3 and 2 black. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, that player loses 5 life unless he or she discards a card.
This is the McDonald's of pressure cards.
Yeah, it really is. Direfleet Ravager is another one that I put in here that's, like we're just going to bring life totals down. So 3 and 2 black for an Orc Pirate Wizard. Has a 4/4 body, menace and death touch. And he's into that death touch.
Way into death touch.
Kind of into menace too, right?
He's got death touch, dude. Hell yeah.
Yeah, so when Direfleet Ravager enters the battlefield, each player loses 1/3 of his or her life rounded up.
Yeesh.
So we're just bringing the life totals down.
That's like big pox.
It is big pox, dude. Big fucking pox. Indulgent Tormentor. This one, I really like this one as a card draw card when you're playing pressure. So Indulgent Tormentor, 3 and 2 black. Flying at the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card unless target opponent sacrifices a creature or pays 3 life. That's
an annoying one, huh?
Invariably, there's points in a game if you play Indulgent Tormentor a little later, there's a player that you can pick every time.
Yeah, you probably should. The guy with the lowest.
That will let you draw a card every time.
The player with the lowest.
And in the context of pressure, you drawing cards is a huge deal.
Usually when you pick Tiff, she's like, fuck you, no.
Yeah, she doesn't.
Pick someone else. So she's the only person that will argue rules like that with you. No, I've already picked you. No, you're picking someone else.
Yeah,
Can we move on? I've picked you. You need to pick someone else.
She does not acquiesce with those for sure.
Yeah. That's funny.
One of my favorites, I put this in a lot of decks, Obnixilis Unshackled.
You're into this guy.
4 and 2 black, flying trample. Whenever an opponent searches his or her library, that player sacrifices a creature and loses 10 life. Whenever another creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Obnixilis Unshackled. Here's the thing to me about, like, we have decks where you're just kind of like battle cruising, right?
Yeah.
But decks like this are causing problems for other people. You're incentivizing them to tutor answers to you. That's why I love Obnixilis Unshackled. It's going to cost you if you're going to try and answer me.
The Xur players basically locked the fuck out.
Yeah.
They tutor and they die, Zer dies.
I love nothing more than having a couple ramp spells and playing Ob Nixilis early.
Yeah.
When people are still ramping. One of my favorites.
Yeah, if you can get him out early, yeah, that one's a pain for sure.
Like all of a sudden.
Well, this cultivate's not worth it.
Yeah, not going to do it. Baneful Omen. 4 and 3 black. At the beginning of your end step, you may reveal the top card of your library.
Do you have the Twilight Prophet in there?
I actually didn't. I really should, because you were using that pretty well the other night.
Just take Baneful Omen out
and put in Twilight Prophet.
In.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Because Baneful Omen, all it does is reveal that card at the end of the turn.
Yeah, you don't put it in your hand.
You don't draw it. And
exactly.
It's just a fuck ton of mana. Like, it's a safer permanent, obviously.
It's true, because it's an enchantment.
But she's just...
That's a good point. You were using that to great effect the
You're
other
welcome,
night.
dude. That's why they pay me the big bucks
That's
right
true.
there.
That's why I invite you, dude.
Yep.
Okay, so let me kind of wrap this thing up a little bit, because... So this segment, I'm just going to call this, This Is Our Last Dance.
Okay. This is... Damn you, dude. Why are you using this theme?
I think invariably there's some people that kind of escape your grasps a little bit. And so it's nice to include a few cards that just checks those types of people. So Tree of Perdition, 3 and a black. It has, so it's a 0/13 and it has tap, exchange target opponent's life total with Tree of Perdition's toughness. If you don't know about Tree of Perdition, you haven't been paying attention to everybody bitching about Commander reprints for the last year and a half, 2 years, because it's everywhere. What
was it? I think
the professors talked about Tree of Perdition a decent amount, being like like we're in the modern. I think his discussion about modern, like, and Wizards not doing reprints for helping with cost, because it's like when you put Tree of Perdition in things and reprints, like, you're not helping the cost.
Oh, you're thinking of the shittier tree. It's worse than that. It's Tree of Redemption.
Tree of Redemption.
It was
is
a
mythic
one? In Masters 25.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Which is the same. I mean,
it's the same tree. One's dark.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm mistaken there.
Yeah, you're thinking of Venom, not Spider-Man. You're thinking of Killmonger, not Black Panther.
Tree of Perdition, set somebody to 13. Somebody's gaining life. Fuck you. Which Erebos is in the deck, so never mind. You're not gaining life.
Mm-hmm.
Soren Markov is just another one where we can use his middle ability to set somebody's life total.
But you shouldn't play that card. That's a card you shouldn't play.
Should not play. Not into it. And even though I just bitched and moaned about it when we talked about Golgari,
mm-hmm.
I went ahead and put in here Torment of Hellfire and Exsanguinate, because I think the pressure can finish people, but nobody's going to actually play into. They're not going to oppress. They're not going to painful quandary themselves into death.
They'll get into the waiting moment where, like, okay, I'm not doing anything because I'm just going to die.
Yeah, so you need a way to finish people.
And yeah, Etrata's only, what is her power?
She's a 3.
Yeah,
3,
so
5.
if they don't resolve any more creatures, you've pressured them into a corner.
Right.
Then...
Yeah, like, you don't want to stand
still.
still.
These are like the classic black finishers.
Yeah, they really are. So
why fix when ain't broken?
Exactly. Pestilence is in there as well to do the same thing. But flavor include here, because...
Is it David Bowie?
I'm just... Yeah,
it's a sequin starsuit.
Kind of, actually.
What is it?
I put Elbrus the Binding Blade in here.
Oh, okay.
So 7 mana for this fucking thing. So it's an equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+0. When equipped creature deals combat damage, remember Etrata's unblockable. Yeah. So if you get this out, and it just has an equip cost of 1.
God, this is like the battle cruising dream. Is this card? This thing is like the biggest trick they've ever printed.
It is. It's just like, this is the card where it's just like, you don't need to go like jerk off after this game. You're gonna have a load in your pants from this one right here. So when equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, unattach Elbrus the Binding Blade, then transform it. So then it becomes Withengar Unbound, which is a flying intimidate trample. Whenever a player loses the game, put 13 +1/+1 counters on Withengar Unbound.
But he's already a 13/13, isn't he?
Yes. So
becomes a 24/24.
Here's the play that you really want. You really want.
Okay.
To have somebody on the clock with Etrata where you just need that one more hit.
Oh shit, in the last hit.
You get Elbrus Blade out and equip. Boom! Got yourself a 26-26.
Would it see it though?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure because it might happen.
I don't know. Maybe if you control both. But I don't know. If you've done that, man, you've earned it.
You fucking deserve it, dude.
Okay.
That's it.
That's it.
But like, I don't know if I can close that out. Like,
that's so fucking funny. All right, that's my deck. That's my bifurcated deck.
Just gonna go fucking in the other room and make out with a picture of Freddie Mercury, man. Like,
just go see the movie.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah. Again, like I say, I think Etrata really provides an opportunity to provide two strategies, and I think you should personally. Like, if you're just focusing on Etrata, you're not going to win.
You don't necessarily have to do pressure. You could do a bunch of evasive creatures, I guess.
Yeah, like I'm seeing people doing like I say, that ninjutsu thing. Like, I just think that, you know, if Eureka hadn't happened this year, we'd probably see more decks experiencing that with Etrata, but everybody's getting their ninjutsu rocks off with Eureka right now. So
yeah. So a little too much too.
Like, what's the point? But
it's looking like a
if I could give advice, take Etrata, build a sub strategy into the deck, because you will not have the circumstances available to you to beat everybody with Etrata. I think odds are, even if you could find yourself in a position where they can if you're 1v1 with somebody, they can just play around you.
Yeah. Just because of how many stars have to align for you to end their game. And it's such a huge, like, they won't advance another creature if they think they're going to lose the game. So I feel like that does lend well to pressure, because you're like, okay, cool, I don't want any of the creatures out anyway. I'm not going to get there. Or you can play it from the back. Maybe they'll forget how many hit counters they have on them, and they'll play another creature later, and you'll come in there and, you know, hotline Miami them out of the game.
Exactly.
It's sick, dude.
All right, what do you got, man?
I support that. I support that deck and the you know,
under pressure.
Yeah, David Bowie thing. So you know who's been itching my brain for a long time?
For like years?
For years. Itching my brain.
Who, dude? Who?
Shuyun itched my brain for a while, and then not right far behind him was Dralnu fucking Lich Lord, dude.
Are you fucking crazy, Andy?
Yeah. Not enough.
Dralnu Voltron?
Yeah, so Drownu, so everyone knows that Drownu Lich Lord is hands down the best Dimir, if not the best Voltron option that exists
of all time.
So I saw a post like on Reddit where somebody's asking about doing Drownu Lich Lord, and I think one of the first comments was, "Is this a troll post?
Yeah,
are you trying to be funny?
You can't have."
Like, no, I was thinking like, you know, give him vigilance or some shit. And I was like, no, but for real, did you read the card before you?
Yeah, like, come on.
So Dralnu, if you know, he's not infamous, but people look at him and probably just go, yeah, next, and move off because of there's something on his text box that's not exactly attractive. So it's 3, a blue and a black for a legendary creature zombie lord. I think he's now a zombie wizard. So he's actually a wizard.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, lord is, I think, a retired type. Let's read what's great about him first. He's a 3/3. You can tap him, and it says target instant or sorcery card in your graveyard has flashback until end of turn. Its flashback cost becomes equal to its mana cost as you play it. And then, yeah, so to remind what flashback is, you may play that card from your graveyard for its flashback cost, then remove it from the game. So flashback already exists. It's a well-known mechanic, but it's not attached to cards like High Tide would be a big one, you know, things like that. Like you're giving a second chance to a lot of instants and sorceries. The last bit that needs to be said, though, is that it says, if damage would be dealt to Dralnu, sacrifice that many permanents instead. So, hey, he doesn't go anywhere. He just, you know, he stays in play.
Voltron.
Thus the Voltron, dude. This is the perfect blocker for everybody. And, yeah, the perfect guy you want to set into the red zone with no evasion. And, yeah, he's tapped because you never want him untapped. It's not like he has an ability that you want to abuse anyway. So, I think right away, anybody who's kind of come to the table in of recent time to play Commander, the comparison is Kess
Oh, yeah.
There's Kess. So she lets you play an instant or sorcery out of your graveyard once a turn. Or once her turn, your turn, specifically your turn.
Yeah, so you're playing.
So yeah, on somebody else's turn, you're not allowed, and on your turn, you are. So she's only allowed to do that on her own turn.
So adds an extra color, but loses the instant speed side of things.
So yeah, there's some give and take. One, you don't have that huge down, like pullback, like that huge. Like if he's damaged, you have to sacrifice that many permanents instead. Sure. Like why that's on the card, I don't know what was going on back in Time Spiral time.
Somebody got in over the weekend and was designing after a bender.
Yeah, or something. I don't know why that's there. He's honestly not that potent. He's 5 mana, and you have to tap him to do it.
Yeah, so you're getting 1 spell.
Sure, but this is an older card, so we're just gonna roll with it, dude. We're fucking crazy enough to do it. So you're always thinking Kess, like she adds red, she subtracts that thing. But what she doesn't bring to the table is exactly what you were saying. Like you can use his ability off of your turn. So you can tap him during someone else's turn and flashback a counter spell or flashback or an instant speed removal or whatever. The other thing that she doesn't bring to the table is that she doesn't interact with the Paradox engine. So right away, just to fucking strip the romance out of this David Bowie song.
Well,
that's where we're headed. So if we're going to have a commander with such a huge drawback that we have to play around, and I'll talk about how to deal with that later, but for now, let's just focus on how the fuck we're going to put this away. So again, this is on the theoretical Dimir side. So we were talking about what Dimir brings to the table as far as its color identity, which is card advantage, disruptive ability. So we're just going to lean in on that. But I want to just tell you how to win with this deck first, and then kind of contextualize it around the deck.
Okay.
So my strategy is not bifurcated like yours. Yours is Etrata could win maybe, and then the pressure could win.
Yeah.
We really only have one or two ways to win, and it's through combo.
Okay.
So with control decks, and I don't know if we've said it or it's just kind of common knowledge, but in Commander, really in every format, like you have to have a thing that you're controlling for.
Oh yeah.
Or you can't control for the sake of control. You will run out of cards.
Yeah.
In Commander, you will run out of a game. Like you're not going to be able to control everybody.
Yeah, it's not possible.
There's ways that you can control everyone by making symmetric denial. Things like stacks effects is a form of control. Resource denial is a form of control because you're controlling their ability to play. But with Dralnu, we're not really set up that way because of how mana intensive things are. What we're doing is we're using instants and sorceries to control the game. I don't know. You could go that route of finding permanents to control things. Like he actually would kind of be okay around things like Necrogen Mists.
Oh yeah.
Or oppression, because hey, cast a card, discard a card. He doesn't give a shit. He has access to it anyway.
Like, so I'm gonna cast it again anyway.
So maybe I'd actually kind of encourage maybe like that line of thinking into a deck. But that's going to slow down how fast I've tried to do this. So he lends himself pretty well to Storm because of his tap and untap.
Mm-hmm.
That's one way to build a win con around him. So I want to say that with Dralnu, he's not the commander that you get out turn 6 or turn 5.
Yeah, there's no way.
You spend the game controlling and he's completely absent. He's more kind of like Karater in that you spend the game kind of resolving things and kind of getting in people's way, and then the other half of the game doing it all over again. And then hopefully you've come out on top through the control war of attrition.
Yeah.
You've just worn everybody's resources down to the point where you found your opportunity to jump in and land your combo.
Yeah.
So they've run out of you've controlled to the best of your ability all the threats to you.
Yeah,
and whatever that's dependent on your
you need to roll
meta.
Out the red carpet before you cast Drownyard.
Yeah, because keeping him in play comes with considerable risk.
Yes,
and he doesn't really. Again, it's a tap ability. You tap him, you flash something back, and get it again. Now, there's some lines of play where this is hugely beneficial. Having him in play with a High Tide in your graveyard, that can jump you in mana, or even like a Dark Ritual or something. Like there are certain times where having him in play is great, but when that Blasphemous Act comes down.
Yeah, I would say that puts you on your back foot as opposed to putting.
Oh, it'd crush your game,
right?
Like you'd be done.
Well, that would, but I'm just saying, like having Dralnu out early puts you on the back foot. You're now trying to defend your commander and control to keep your commander protected, rather than trying to control to create the circumstances you want.
Yeah, which is a losing game.
Yeah.
Trying to defend his bad card text is not going to win.
No.
If you spend all your energy and even your card slots on trying to stop that, it's not going to win. You can't win with that. If you're worried too much about that, then maybe you should switch over to Kess. Like if you have a very red heavy meta with a lot of direct damage effects, and there's Chandras and there's Anger of the Gods, and there's just all these different spells that are going off in your meta, like, yeah, maybe this isn't your guy. But if you have like they're creature centric or they're another combo deck, that would be this would be very disruptive
ideal
to have another combo deck around. Or one that's like, a disruptive in the way that there's a lot of discard. This thing can play around that. It's not super affected by that. So the way to shut this game down, and I'm going to, again, just like I was saying, strip the romance out. We're looking for Isochron Scepter with Dramatic Reversal and a mana positive rock to give us infinite mana.
Cool.
And to infinitely untap him. So he's untapping every time that's going on.
Yeah.
So Isochron Scepter is a 2 mana artifact that when it's played, you imprint a card to it. So an instant or sorcery. So you can do anything. You could do Brainstorm if you wanted. You could do anything imprinted on it. But when you put Dramatic Reversal on it, you can pay 2, tap, and cast Dramatic Reversal, which at instant speed untaps all permanents, non-land permanents you control.
Including itself.
Including the Isochron Scepter. So if you have a Soul Ring, then you can cast this spell forever. The spell is getting cast over and over and over and over and over again.
Cool.
So if you don't have infinite mana, but you have an infinite cast at that point. Once you get one more mana, now you've got infinite mana because they'll see it. So if you have a Sky Diamond, even like if we're keeping it really low, so it'll Commander's Sphere, so whatever it is, you've now achieved infinite colored mana. A Gilded Lotus would be ideal because it can be dumped into a Capsize.
Yeah.
So with Capsize in your hand, you can continually buy it back. So Capsize is 1, a blue and a blue. It's an instant. It says return target permanent to its owner's hand, but it has a buyback of 3. Colorless. So once you've achieved that, you can bounce everyone's permanents and say, I'm not letting any more permanents no permanents are coming back into play from here on out. Do you want to give me the game?
Yeah.
And even if it gets really bad, like your commander's always auto untapping. So anything you have in your yard as far as counter magic goes is now accessible to you because the stack is just going to get really disgusting at this point. So yeah, I'm saying these are options, right?
Sure.
As far as win cons. I think I'm going to leave this kind of open-ended as how you win with him. I'm just going to go over cards that just kind of get you there.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm leaving that open-ended. The other way to win with BB Paradox Engine, and Paradox Engine, Future Sight, and the Sensei's Divining Top. So I kind of threw out this before in my Niv Mizzet list. It was Helm of Awakening, Future Sight, and Sensei's Divining Top. So to walk over this weird draw your library combo again.
Okay.
Future Sight says it's a 6 mana. It's 3 a red, or it's 3 blue, blue, blue. And it says you play with the top card of your library revealed, and you may play cards from the top of your library. So there's a lot of those effects that do that. But if you look at the language on them, they're usually like in green. It's you can play a creature or you can play a land. Yeah, and do 2 lands. But none of them really just are so open ended like that, where it's like any card at the top of your library you can play it,
dude.
So if you think about what this is doing functionally, you have kind of have access to your entire deck.
Yeah, you have hand extension.
Your hand. Yeah, it's this weird hand expansion.
Yeah,
it's like this weird hand expansion. If you have Helm of Awakening out, which says all spells are a generic 1 less to cast, and this works for any artifact, but I use this one just because it's so open-ended. So it's 2 mana for an artifact that says all spells cost 1 generic less.
Yeah.
And then you have the Sensei's Divining Top,
which costs 1.
So the line of play here is that you tap the top, draw the top card from your library, and then put the top on top. So you top the top.
Cool.
But with Future Sight out, you can see the top. It's face up.
And you play.
And Helm of Awakening sees this and says, oh, well, it's 0 mana. So now you replay it. So with this in Paradox Engine, because this spell is 0 mana now.
Yeah.
And it's constantly being cast from the top of your library. Because once you get the top out once, you can't continually cast it.
Sure.
But this way you can keep casting it from the top of your library.
Yeah.
So with Paradox Engine, Future Sight,
Well, and
a mana
that,
positive.
what you just described allows you to draw your deck too, right?
So it's both. So yeah, if you don't have the Helm of Awakening, you can get by with just some mana positive mana rock.
Sure.
Because it will untap.
Right.
So if it's like, as long as you're mana positive, so if you're like a Soul Ring, infinite colorless, because you tap Soul Ring for 2, right?
Okay.
To get it, and then you do the top thing. So now it's on top, but you're floating one. So yeah, you're floating mana, but then the Soul Ring untaps because you cast the Soul Ring.
Yeah.
If you have Helm of Awakening, then you don't need any mana positive. You can just draw your deck. I don't know what you do with it at that point, but you would draw your whole deck.
Sure. But then you could probably, I mean, anytime you're in that position, you can set up other combos that allow you to win. Right?
Yeah. So Labman is where I'm headed with this.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's the Storm route, and then that gets a lot of cards into your hand. I'm just talking about, artifact combos that get you there. But Storm, because you can flash back a lot of these spells and get him into a situation where you can infinitely untap him, or cast a bunch of capsizes and then lands a Mind's Desire and just end the game. So you've capsized, you pushed everything back into everyone's hand, and then you do, if you're crazy, I guess if you're thinking more like an Izzet Guild Mage, then you just do Mind's Desire. So it's 4, a blue and a blue, shuffle your library, then exile the top card of your library. Until the end of the turn, you may play that card without paying its mana cost, and it has Storm. So whenever you cast a spell, copy it for each spell you've cast before it this turn.
Oh.
So you have an arbitrary large amount of Mind's Desires. You can just say, I'm just putting I'm casting everything out of my library.
Yeah.
I honestly don't.
You're like, do I need to?
I don't know if you would want to, because of how control heavy this deck list is. Like, resolving all this stuff, there isn't a lot of permanence in there.
Like,
I guess you could just maybe fall into this, but Tendrils of Agony is probably the other Storm card that it probably just, this is probably what I would do if I was going off of like a Storm card that would end the game.
Yeah.
So it's 2, a black and a black. Target player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. It also has Storm.
Okay.
So let's say I have, to walk through this again, because I'm sorry, this is fucked up. So if you have Paradox Engine, Dramatic Reversal, any spell on Dramatic Reversal, like there's just so many ways you can, Isocron Scepter. Yeah, like dude, this is just, it gets pretty nutty. So like, let me walk you through this one. You could have Paradox Engine, Reality Shift on the Isocron Scepter, and the Soul Ring. And once they have one creature that you can exile, you can deck them. Oh. So I reality shift the creature. You have to manifest the card.
Yeah, and so then you keep
exile the manifest, and we just keep going until you're just out.
That's a beautiful decking process, because it doesn't matter what's there. You can have a Gaia's Blessing. You can have whatever. It doesn't
because
matter.
the only thing they can manifest to flip it up is a creature. So unless it's a creature with, I think, Flash, they'd have to manifest it, but then I would just recast it.
Yeah, exactly.
I would just recast it. But then it's a creature. I'll just exile that creature.
Like, do that one too. Thanks.
Yeah. So it's like they manifest it, which ignores the stack because it's a morph. But you get what I mean. Like, I'm basically decking them out.
Yeah.
But even if I don't have anything like that, if all I have is just one thing that's just spinning its wheels, which would be like the Dramatic Reversal and just the Isocron Scepter and a Soul Ring, and I have Tendrils of Agony in my hand,
you're like, I'm casting spells.
I'm just casting spells. So I'm casting an arbitrary amount of untaps, and then I'm just shooting a Tendrils of Agony. And then somebody tries to counter it, and I tap and flash back a counter that I've used earlier with Drownyard.
Drownyard's like, he's your insurance salesman.
Yeah, so that's kind of my message here, is that there is a way to win with Storm. There's another way to win with him that I feel like he lends himself very well to, which is Doomsday.
Oh, okay.
So we have yet to talk about Doomsday on this podcast because it's very I don't think we don't even consider ourselves competitive Commander players.
No,
we did it at GP Vegas. You went and played.
Yeah, I went 2 for 3 or 2 and 3.
Yeah, it's Mox or die pretty much, right? So Doomsday is a very well known line of play where you're setting up a combo that you're guaranteed to hit because you have no other cards in play.
Yeah.
In existence. So Doomsday is a black, and a black for a sorcery. Search your library and graveyard for 5 cards and exile the rest. Put the chosen cards on top of your library in any order. you lose half your life, rounded up. So the idea here is that you put only combo pieces remaining in your library, so the next 5 cards are things that you want.
Yeah.
So the cards that you want to do are all, if you go to look up Doomsday piles, a lot of them, 70% of them are centered around the Laboratory Maniac.
Oh yeah, because
and why not? So
you're gonna win.
Yeah, as a refresher, the Laboratory Maniac is a 3-mana human wizard, so 2 and a blue. It says if you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. So he replaces the lose factor of not having any cards left. Instead, he just says win the game instead.
Yeah.
So they're exiled. They're gone forever. This is extremely risky. A lot of things can
to
go,
say the least.
A lot of things can go wrong because now you only have what's in your hand. Your graveyard is now like, yeah. So you only have what's in your hand outside of the 5 cards that are in there.
Oh yeah.
Because it says search your library and graveyard for 5 cards and exile the rest. So you exile your graveyard. It's gone. So Dralnu doesn't have access to
like there's nothing for Dralnu to use there.
But what he does do is he lets you flash back cards that you cast. So with Labman in play and Dralnu, whatever you cast off those 5 can be flashed back.
Okay.
So the line of play here is you want you want Brainstorm, Gush, and Jataxian Probe.
Yeah.
Gush and Jataxian Probe cost no mana. That's why you want them. So you just drop the islands to do Gush to let you draw 2 cards. So you're going to draw 5 cards. Well, draw 6.
Yeah.
Because you go to draw that 6th card and it doesn't exist. And remember, Brainstorm says draw 3. So if it can't finish, Labman sees it and says, oh shit, you won, bro.
Yeah. It's like, sweet.
Yeah, so Gush is a 6-mana card or 5-mana card. It's 4 and a blue to draw 2 cards. But it says you may return 2 islands you control to their owner's hands rather than pay Gush's mana cost. You can do Predict is another one that does it. And then Jataxian Probe, if you remember, it's a modern, well, it got banned in modern, but it's, you pay 2 life, you look at somebody's hand, so pick the blue player, and then draw a card.
Yeah.
So Jataxian Probe, draw a card. There's 4 left in the library. Gush, draw 2 more cards.
Yeah, you're on your way.
There's only 3 left in the library. So if this is your upkeep, like if you've started your turn, then you do a Brainstorm, you draw 3 cards, there's none left, but then you put 2 back and then you can just pay it again and flash.
Sweet.
Then you can tap and gush again. Like
exactly.
In response.
Like I'll send the 2 islands back because who needs them? I'm going to win.
Who needs them? I'm going to win because I've got Drownu. So Drownu just sees it and says, yeah, all right, let's just flash back that gush. However you want to order that, like it's just, you're just done. You could just do a windfall. That would work too. If you already have 5 cards in hand, you can just windfall. It's
Sweet.
done. So whatever's in your hand, like if you've got a windfall or a time, because windfall says all the players it's 2 and a blue. All players discard their hands and draw the greatest amount. So as long as somebody has more than 5.
Yeah, and I find that most games, unless there's somebody that's like really aggressively working on the discard, there's somebody that's been greedy at the table, and they've got a pretty good grip.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, after playing the game, and so that's one way to win. I want to say right now that from what I've observed, like just people's opinion, and again, I haven't played this, but this is I've played decks very, very close to this in Niv Mizzet. But what people kind of are landing on is that both packages seem unnecessary to each other. It's either you Doomsday or you storm off. I think having both kind of gets in your way because again, you have a commander with a huge drawback to him. But then again, he has a huge benefit if these artifacts are in play. Well,
and it doesn't make sense to waste a lot of time trying to decide which fork in the road you're going to take, right?
Yeah. So this is kind of the idea is like whatever you want to try to do. I would say that if you're looking to do the storm side, like to help support that, I would Aetherflux Reservoir is probably the safest storm card out there.
Oh yeah.
Rather than trying to do something like, so to remind everybody, Aetherflux Reservoir, it's a was it 4 mana?
I think it's 5. Isn't it?
I thought it was 4. It's an artifact. It's what do they call it? The laser tower or whatever.
Sorry. I won with it on Saturday.
Oh yeah, you actually.
It's 4. You're right.
So what is it again? It's 4 mana.
So it says it's an artifact. It simply says whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. So with Storm, obviously, starts adding up.
The life starts going up.
But then the big thing is it has pay 50 life. Aetherflux Reservoir deals 50 damage to target creature or player.
This is easily done with this dramatic reversal thing I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
So if it's strapped to the Isochron Scepter, you have an arbitrarily high amount of untaps.
Yeah.
And then you have access to almost every card in your graveyard that's been shot by him because he's untapping along with them. So if anyone tries to interdict you, you can be like, yeah, fuck off and block it.
Go away, boom.
With the counter magic. So yeah, there's just certain, that's one. And then the other one's like the Sentinel Tower. The problem with that one though is that it doesn't work off of anything that you're twinning. So any kind of twin effects, it doesn't work with, but it does work with the dramatic reversal thing. It does work with the Capsize, Gilded Lotus, and the, Capsize and the Paradox Engine with anything that produces at least 6 mana worth of mana rocks. So there's other ways that you can win through Storm. It's not only like, hey, I need to find Tendrils of Agony or I'm not going to fucking do it. Or
there's multiple.
Because I honestly don't think Mind's Desire is a great idea if the deck is loaded with control elements.
Okay.
So how do we get here? That's the question. Because what I've described, I hope I've described it okay, is pretty convoluted in the face of somebody who he's already 5 mana.
Yeah.
So there's a couple ways to cheapen costs for instants and sorceries that only blue has. Yeah, we lose out to some of the red ones that we love, but Baral, Chief of Compliance. He's 1 in a blue. Instant or sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever a spell or ability you control counters a spell, you may draw a card or discard, and if you do, discard a card. So he kind of runs the deck really well. Anytime you counter, you can fill your yard a little bit with Dralnu.
Yeah.
The discard thing is another way to kind of control the game a little bit. Mm-hmm. You are okay to discard off of things like Necrogen Miss or Oppression. You're okay to do that because you have access to your graveyard for the most part. And people are kind of waiting around for Drownyard to show up. Anything that untaps mana as far as a counter spell is really good because you can use it twice in the same turn. So if you get in a counter war with somebody, so Unwind is really good. So Unwind is 2 in a blue, counter target non-creature spell, untap up to 3 lands.
Yeah.
So if he's present, if they see the writing on the wall, it means I'm just going to flash it back and do it again.
Oh yeah.
So if you do an Unwind, it untaps lands.
Yeah, like you've got it available to do it
Rewind is the more heavy-handed one. It's 4. Yeah, it's 2 and 2 blue. And then it counters any spell, so it doesn't really care about whether it's a non-creature or not.
Sure.
I mean, let's be honest. Unwind is the preferable spell here.
I like Unwind.
Yeah. Reality Shift obviously is a good control element, but again, it's kind of a win con. So if it's on that Scepter and you've got the Paradox Engine and you're mana positive as far as 2 colorless, you can deck somebody. Mm-hmm. So I don't know about using this, but if they're throwing something at you like a Galta and you're on your last hit or something big that you just like, you cannot have it happen.
Sorry.
Or I don't know, there's something that's blocking you, like one that would be really bad would be like Spirit of the Labyrinth or something. Like something that's just like, it doesn't, what is it, Spirit of the Labyrinth or the Eidolon of Rhetoric, that those two would just be,
I was going to say,
you can't cast more than 1 spell a turn. Anything that says that, or the damping, Damping Sphere is an artifact, but anything that's like bogging you down like that, it's got to go. You might have to pass up and let the Reality Shift do its thing.
A card that I've been thinking about more lately is, because I use Linvala, right, to slow down people's activateds.
That would have to go.
But and Pithing Needle, I've been thinking about including more frequently into decks.
Pithing Needle would fuck this pretty hard, actually.
Yeah,
they'd
because
just be like Isochron, even if they never saw it.
Oh yeah,
or Dralnu himself.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
could name that, and you'd have to find a way to deal with it or counter it.
Yeah, I mean counter it is what you need to do.
Yeah, Disallow is another really good. It's our toolbox of counter magic.
Love Disallow.
So it's 1, a blue and a blue, counter target spell, activated ability, or triggered ability. Mana abilities can't be targeted, and it's got Baral on it, so so yeah, we're looking at like kind of like this line of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Like let's counter stuff that's coming down. There's a lot of really good black removal. So something like Curtain's Call.
Okay.
So it's reduced. It's 5 and a black, isn't it?
I think so.
And it's reduced by how many opponents are in play still. So it can get down to pretty much 1 black, depending on how.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a really big table,
but it can be flashed back. I kind of went for if I'm going to remove stuff, let me be less discriminatory. So I have Vana's Hunger. So it's 2 and a black, Ascend. So if you control 10 or more permanents, you get the City's Blessing for the rest of the game. But it says each opponent sacrifices a creature. If you have City's Blessing, each opponent sacrifices half the creature, so your control is rounded up. So you go half and then half again if you flash this back. So you can end step stuff. Instants are valued here because you can,
even though his activated ability
cast it and then tap him,
instance.
Cast it again. So if you have, I mean, in this case, if you have 6 mana available and you've done nothing, like, all right, everyone sacks half, and then I'm going to tap Drowning, flash it back, everyone sacks. You know, you want to be end stepping people with him because you can take advantage of that where you couldn't with Kess.
Oh yeah, exactly.
You know, like he likes instances. Also, the stuff that works really well with him is anything that gives you a lot of mana. So I kind of talked about it a few times, but High Tide is 1 blue until the end of the turn. All islands produce an additional blue when tapped for mana. So if there's an opposite blue player with you, maybe just do Dark Ritual and don't be a greedy idiot with it. Yeah, it's an instant for black. It adds 3 black to your mana pool, but then you can tap him and flash it back and add 3 more.
Exactly.
So you've gone up to.
I love things like that where you can kind of like net a bunch more.
Yeah, you're up to 5, so you've got 5 black with this, and then there's the other bigger one, which is the Cabal Ritual.
Yes.
So it's 1 colorless and a black. It does the same thing. It adds black, black, black to your mana pool, but it has threshold. You can add 5 black to your mana pool instead if there's 7 or more cards in your graveyard.
Which there will be.
Which there probably will be, you know, especially if you're casting cards like Fact or Fiction.
Oh yeah.
Frantic Search is really good. That was the other one that like untaps lands. So if, let's say we've passed the turn, we've draw a goat all the way around, and we haven't had to counter anything. You know, it's 2 and a blue, draw 2 cards, then choose and discard up to 2 cards, and then untap 3 lands, and then you can tap him and do it again. So you've looted 4 cards off of your library and drawn 2 of them. So it's draw 2, discard 2, draw 2, discard 2. But who gives a shit? You're just filling up your yard. The other thing that works really good with him, I think, and this is the same is true for Kess, is transmute spells. So the Dimir's original mechanic was something called transmute. You would discard the card and tutor one that was the same CMC.
Yeah. And
it's any card. So like one like Perplex. It's 1, a blue and a black, counter target spell unless its controller discards his or her hand. I don't know. You might counter something just silly and they'll discard their hand to let it go through.
Sure.
I don't know. The lines of I've never actually perplexed anybody, but the thing that you want about about this is that it can tutor you capsize.
Right.
So it's 1, a blue and a black, but you can transmute it for 1, a blue and a black, and you discard this card, search your library for a card with the same converted mana cost as this card, reveal it and put it in your hand, then shuffle your library, play this only as a sorcery. But now this is in my graveyard. So I can flash it back.
Right.
I can't flash it back and transmute it, but I can flash it back and perplex somebody. The other 2 are Muddle the Mixture, which I honestly put in almost every blue deck I have.
You really do.
Because to me, it's another copy of Cyclonic Rift. To me, it's another copy of the Isochron Scepter.
Yeah.
To me, it's another copy of whatever 2 mana card I need in the entire deck. And in the worst case scenario, it's a blue and a blue, counter target instant or sorcery spell. You really cannot have somebody resolve a Blasphemous Act if your dude's out.
Oh, yeah.
And the sadist in your play group is looking to do that.
Oh, yeah.
The dickhead is looking to do it.
Yeah, that chain reaction is coming.
That chain react, like whatever they're looking to do. Yeah. They're looking to get at you with that. Where's my other transmute? My last transmute that I added. There's a myriad of them, but I kind of stuck with the instants and sorceries because they make the best sense with Drownyard.
Yeah, with Drownyard, they're going to fit in a lot better.
The other one's Shred Memory, and it's just because I'm kind of getting sick of the graveyards. So it's 1 and a black, remove up to 4 target cards from a single graveyard from the game. That's enough. There's 4 cards they really don't want lost.
Yeah.
The Karater player, you just did Kokoshu, Safi. At instant speed, you did it.
Yeah.
Or you could transmute it and get your Isochron Scepter. Or your Reality Shift, or whatever last piece of the puzzle you're looking for.
That's really
honestly
funny.
That's about as far as I took it with the tutors. So here's the other thing that I want to say. He lends himself very well to tutors because you can flash them back.
Yeah, do it
These
again.
combos I'm talking about, you're like, well, man, these are a fucking stretch. You have Fabricate, you have Mystical Tutor, You have Dralnu that can flash these back.
And do them again.
You can do Demonic Tutor because we're in black. You can do Mystical Teachings, a card that I've really wanted to run, but I actually didn't put in the list because it's too much mana. But you can do that.
You can.
Which it itself has flashback, and it searches for an instance or sorcery. It is not difficult to put this shit together just by way of tutors.
Get that Word of Invention for that Isochron Scepter, dude.
Yeah, or whatever. You know, I'm like whatever your morality is with this. If you're one of those people that's like, yeah, I really don't want to make my deck is so homogenous that it's just tutor.deck, then don't.
Yeah.
And I encourage you. I'm leaning on the, hey, let's just try to draw through the damn deck rather than tutor. But the transmute stuff was just kind of too good to pass up because I could transmute and then I have access to it.
Yeah,
later.
you can cast it.
Yeah, so
there are two spells in one. Like,
I'm not that much of a fucking.
It's a tutor and whatever the actual
I'm not that much of a
is.
Robin Hood, you know. But it's there for you. I was talking about cheapening spells, but I didn't really follow through with that all the way. Sorry. Jace's Sanctum's in here. That's the other one.
Sure.
It's 3 and a blue. Instant or sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, scry 1. The only one I think I'd take a little bit further than this would be the Primal Amulet. So I've kind of bashed this. Okay. All right.
I saw this on your list and I was ready to give you shit about it, dude. I was ready.
All right. I was into this card when they spoiled it. And I was like, oh my God, with this card. It reduces spell costs on the front end and then it twins spells on the back end. The thing about that, then I fell out of love with it because of what I've talked about with some spell slinger decks called the window.
Right.
So you can win without Drowning with this.
Sure.
And you know what? My Mizzix list, you can win without Mizzix too. If you got a fuck ton of mana, like you can do it. There's the window up here is a lot further out.
Well, yeah.
You know? So I can resolve this on the way to the Drownu phase. So if you remember at the beginning of my little spiel, we're mostly like managing threats, and dealing with stuff, you know, and putting things into play and kind of getting our a bit of the way there. You know, people are gonna see you resolve mana rocks and not realize like how important they are to your combo later on because they're thinking whatever, it's like every other motherfucking commander deck, right? The Primal Amulet fits into this, okay? Sure. It reduces the cost of these spells on both sides. So they reduce the spells in your graveyard and they reduce the spells in your hand.
Yeah.
So, and it's only 4 mana where he's going to be further out. I don't see him coming out. All right, turn 5, time for Drowning.
Yeah, you're not casting.
Like, unless you've been aggressively dumping all these cards into your library, which, dope, do that. I really think you need to leave mana up, though, the turn you resolve them. You don't want to be tapping down.
Must.
So this is on the way there, my dude. Do you see this?
I did the same thing with I don't really the Kenriths. Like I put it in. Like you shit on it, but I was like, you know what? They're both 6 CMC. Like I'm putting it in, dude.
Yeah, they're 6 CMC, but Mizzix is 4 CMC.
Right.
She shares a spot with the Primal Amulet.
Yeah.
And Niv Mizzet is 6 CMC, but he's 3 red, 3. I really actually would rather resolve a mana rock in 2 or 3. I don't know. I don't know. And I could take it back. But the Primal Amulet is kind of, you know, and it's a target. Somebody might go, "Oh fuck that! I'm killing that shit," and they don't know you're looking for a paradox ending.
See,
which
and
is 1,000 times worse.
That's
than
the thing to me is
amulet.
That like I hope with both of our lists that there's some misdirection. Like I fully expect Etrata to be calling out removal. Like fine, waste your spells.
Yeah,
the pressure is going to be the thing that kills you.
The pressure is going to, yeah. So here it's. I mean, it's what do we call them? Patsies, right? They're a little bit of a Trojan horse.
They really are.
You know, like remove my Primal Amulet so I don't get twinning spells that I never had in. It was really there for the reduction in mana cost. Right. Is why it's there. It's not. Yeah. So you get what I mean.
I get it.
I didn't put Swarm Intelligence in here. Okay.
I was gonna say like that's on like the.
But it's 7 mana. I mean, I guess you could set up with that. I just feel like once you resolve something like that, people are gonna start looking at you. It's like, okay, Swarm Intelligence. What's he gonna do? There's another one called the Catalyst Stone. I didn't include this in the list because I think it doesn't help us on both sides. So it's a 2 mana artifact. This is flashbacks costs you up to 2 less to play, and then weirdly it says flashbacks cost your opponent's play cost 2 more to play. So
if you really need to fuck other people,
I just didn't think it was worth it. Like I just probably want to do like the Helm of Awakening or the Cloud Key at this point or something. Like
sure,
it doesn't help the cards that are in your hand. It only helps the ones that are in your yard. You dig? So
I get you.
So I left it out.
It's only partial benefit.
Yeah. So like before somebody suggests it, like, well, you should put that shit in there because like, maybe, I don't know. It's a dead card for half the game because I'm not planning on resolving.
Oh yeah,
Drownu for a bit.
Exactly.
And honestly, like all the other cards that are in here, like there's only like one or two.
And you're probably not resolving Drownu until you have other things set up anyway. So it becomes superfluous to your combo, right?
Because look at that fucking text, man. I can't do that. I can't sacrifice 13 permanents. I can't even sacrifice 2 permanents. So the card's dead until he's out. Wheel effects are also very useful for him. So things like Ancient Excavation, it's 2, a blue and a black. Draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand, then discard a card for each drawn this way. So it's hand selection. But hey, you could basic land cycle this thing early and then do this later. It's at speed when he's out. So the cards like this work very well with him. Like he has a robust synergy there.
Oh yeah.
So last little bit. But Andy, what about that fucking text? What am I gonna do? So a lot of people fall on Magebane armor is like the first thing that people want to do. I think that I'd be okay with that if the deck was set up in such a way where you were being a little bit more ponderous.
But you're like, I want to get there.
Yeah. So let's just think about what we're doing here. Okay. We are actively disrupting and countering and removing and doing things like that throughout the entire game. You are not going to be a popular player. You can try to not participate and slowly advance your strategy, but the Magebane armor, just to kind of, sorry to say what it is, it's 3 mana, equipped creature has +2/+4 and loses flying.
It turns out he doesn't have it, so fuck off.
Yeah, but what's important is it says prevent all non-combat damage that would be dealt to equipped creature. So it nullifies...
Yeah, that blasphemous act doesn't matter.
Yeah, a lightning bolt isn't going to, I mean, you see a lightning bolt, but things like that, like any kind of damage-oriented spell is not going to do it.
But this is 5 mana to set this up.
5 mana to set it up. So again, if you have a very red heavy meta and you really don't want to play Kess to add to that red, I guess, then yeah, you should probably pick this up. Sure. If you don't, if you just have like your, you know, because red isn't exactly like the most popular color, but if you have like a regular looking meta, then maybe you should just skip that and just lean on the counter spells.
Sure. Because
the counter spells can be recurred. The counter spells, you know,
and they'll usually be sufficient to avoid that. Like how many times per game?
And I didn't put a lot because you can flash them back later to protect your combo.
Sure.
So I didn't put a lot. It's kind of got a medium-sized counter package. I think like if you're just playing blue for blue's sake, you want to put 3 in any deck. If you're playing Spellslinger, you probably should go up to 5 to 7. If you're playing Control, you probably need to be
in the 10 range.
I don't know, man.
That's pretty excessive.
That's maybe only at this point. We're probably only looking at like
if you think about that, like 10 with a Drownu deck, like we're playing Mother May I the whole way around.
So you don't need that. I think you could stick around maybe 5.
Yeah,
you know, because you've got access to them twice in theory.
Yeah,
in theory. So there is one that's made just for that sadist in your group because you know there's going to be somebody who's like,
oh wait, so wait. Let me get this straight. So if I cast Blasphemous Act, does that mean you have to sacrifice 13 permanents?
To which you say, yeah, man, and I would really be unhappy and I would not like that at all.
Oh, okay. Well,
so the second he does it, you say, all right, I'm casting Reigns of Power in response, motherfucker. So it's 2, a blue and a blue, instant. Untap all creatures you control and all creatures target opponent controls. You and that opponent gain control of all creatures, the other controls until the end of the turn. Those creatures gain haste till end of turn. So you give him freaking Reigns of Power. You give him you give him freaking Dralnu and tell him to go fuck off. And now he has to sack 13.
He has to sack 13 permanents. That's what you get.
That's what you get.
You see, Larry? You see?
And now it's sitting in your yard. So anyone else wants to fucking lose their board state, you know, because he doesn't die. It just says instead.
Right.
So he just stays and he comes back to you,
like,
and everyone's like,
back.
And then that guy's like, oh.
This is what you get when you fuck a stranger in the ass.
This is what you get. That, I think, is probably the ultimate fucking response to...
I just want to see that happen. Like, I want you to build this deck so I can see that happen.
Reigns of Power it over to somebody else. So yeah, that's kind of the idea. As far as like creatures go, do anything that supports getting to your combo. I don't know, like Trinket Mage would be probably a good idea. Consecrated Sphinx obviously is like a great idea because you're digging through your deck faster. I added one of the new cards, the Doom Whisperer. So Surveil actually works pretty well with Dralnu.
Yeah.
The Doom Whisperer is kind of expensive though right now. But there's different Surveil creatures. I just wanted something that I could activate whenever. You could do the Guild Mage. Dude. But it's 3 a black and a black, flying trample, pay 2, Surveil 2. So look at the top 2 cards of your library. You may put them in any order. So you may put any number of them in your graveyard and the rest on top of your library in any order. So it kind of sets your draw a little bit, ditches stuff into the yard that you don't either want to see or you're okay to flash back.
Right.
You will need the Laboratory Maniac. I don't know if there's a way to not have him. I think even the Storm list might want him too if you're going to do the Mind's Desire thing. Where you're just like, I cast all the spells and now I'm out. So I'm going to cast Brainstorm and
this card's
win.
fucking dope. Dude.
Notion Thief is just really good.
Always good.
Yeah, he's definitely straddling the functional and theoretical side of Dimir. 2 a blue and a black, flash. If an opponent would draw a card except the first one he or she draws on each of his or her draw steps, instead that player skips that draw and you draw a card.
It's probably...
So he shuts off Nezahal, he shuts off Rhystic Study, he shuts off Consecrated Sphinx.
This card's up there in terms of cards that make me unhappy when I see other people play it. I just kind of like...
Well, because they're usually doing it in response to the person you don't want
because it's always flashed in and you're just... Because it's the biggest
that Blue
it's the
Sun
biggest
Zenith
pitch of emotion because you're just like, fuck, I'm about to get off.
Yeah,
and then somebody else is like, not only are you not getting off, I'm getting off.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And like all my decks, it's pretty creature light. Like I don't have a lot of decks. There are a lot of decks that aren't, but you could think about putting stuff like maybe Fog Bank in rather than you being Mr. Mother May I about stuff. Because honestly, I don't know if you can afford to counter very big creature threats.
No.
Because you got to wait for things that are like Blasphemous Act, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Or God forbid creatures that fight. You know, that would be, you don't want to bring him to like any kind of Fight Club type deck.
Shoot, that would be.
Or what would be really bad is if somebody had a Rurik Thar. Like that would just, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of, I mean, are you really going to pull this out when somebody's
Yeah, I mean, if somebody's getting out Rurik Thar, you're like, well, I guess I'm not playing this
Play
deck.
a different deck. But yeah, things like that, like anything with, I mean, like I've said it, I'm really into Death Touch lately, but Death Touch is really great for blocking. Like you'd be surprised how much mileage you can get out of a
steer clear
vamp. Well, and there was, remember the politics episode, right? So rather than like things like Fog Bank and things like the Vampire Nighthawk, rather than you saying like, they just sit there and they don't do anything. Like every time someone goes to attack and they go, what does this do? And you explain it, and then they decide to attack someone else. I don't know, mentally keep track of how much damage that was.
Yeah.
And that's how much closer your opponent is to losing the game.
Like a Baleful Strix or things like that just kind of like...
Baleful Strix, that'd actually be perfect.
Like
just like something like that. Because you could, I guess, capsize Baleful Strix in your end step if you're still kind of in the setup.
Sure.
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, Leyline of Anticipation and Videlcan Orrery. I don't normally say, okay, they gotta go in. You gotta put them in.
But maybe they do.
But
here.
he kind of benefits because of that, you know, at the end step you can tap and flash them back.
Yeah.
Or in response to things. Like certain sorceries, like you want to be able to respond to your own triggers, which you can't really do that. So maybe a tutor in response to you doing, I don't know, something like that. Because now you have flash. So not every commander deck.
Yeah, but the commander's already kind of leaning you in that direction. This one is.
I mean, to save yourself the money, you could probably pass on it and just get more cards that are more relevant rather than being like, yeah, I want these cards to give myself instant speed access to all my sorceries and creatures. Like just include more instances. Find alternatives then. You know,
the reason you include those,
I can't think of many that are like, I really want them. The reason you include
those types of cards is when you are playing against a group that's
trained up. They know your strategy.
Yeah,
there is that.
That's why you get those cards. Like if people don't know what you're doing, or they're maybe a little. I want to be diplomatic about how I characterize this type of player because I think there are players who are blissfully oblivious.
Yeah.
I guess it's not that they're bad players. It's not that they don't know how to play the game.
Sure.
It's just that maybe they're not paying attention
Okay.
to things all the time. Those you can get past those types of people without needing a ley line of anticipation. But if they're trained up
Meaning like you've played this deck a lot, they see the game.
Yeah.
You could probably just get around that and just do like the Teferi Mage's Zalfir, because he can flash in.
Oh yeah.
And then
send back.
And then you just go through your turn.
Yeah.
And then right before your turn begins, again, you flash in Dralnu.
Yeah.
And then when it's your turn, everyone's at sorcery speed but you. So really everything is like,
That's a good idea.
He's actually awesome.
That's a good idea.
I had him in my old Niv Mizzet, and that's kind of where I got a lot of these ideas. Is the old Niv Mizzet was tap, draw a card.
Sure.
Well, I'm like, fuck it, let's tap,
Like, just
flash,
apply
and
it here.
instant bat. So a lot of this is coming from that. So if
That's
it
actually
seems
cool.
kind of familiar, like some shit I've done before,
Yeah, that is
I'm
very
operating
interesting.
off of that again.
Huh.
But I don't have Firemind's Foresight or the Goblin Electromancer, so sue me. This isn't the same. It's not the same, and I have black. I have tutors now. I didn't have access to that either. So the draw spells are a lot. I'm not sitting there going like, yeah, dude, let's do a compulsive research or whatever the fuck. Like we're just doing a fucking demonic tutor. Why fuck around? But again, you can dial back the tutor density if you're really,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. You're kind of showing your colors a little bit when you're playing Drownyard. With that first text is pretty rough.
Yeah, you're a fucking sadist.
Yeah, and he's the hipster Kess a little bit.
Really kind of is. Should we just drop a couple thoughts about Lazav the Multifarious before we close out?
Oh yeah. So bring the graveyard hate. It's fucking annoying when you're going up against him. As your opponent, like sorry, you probably already saw that, but yeah, one Tormud's Crypt at the early game is enough to kind of keep him away from you for a while.
We had a game where there were 2 Tormod's Crypts on the battlefield that kind of kept him checked, but he was still threatening. Like it was just kind of like, yeah, he's not going to go directly at the people that have the Tormod's Crypts, but
yeah,
geez, there's some
the
stuff
other
going
thing
on.
that we noticed that seems to be already manifest in some of the earlier content that's been gone over is that, manage your mana costs of these creatures that you're shifting, and really like don't try. I don't know. We kind of noticed that overlapping a lot of them isn't all that great. You might as well replace that with a card that either gets them into the graveyard or loots you some more. So
like an example would be if you have multiple creatures that have indestructibility in the deck.
Yeah,
like the
or
point
multiple
is to
creatures
protect
that
it from a board wipe.
Yeah, or multiple creatures that put him on a 3-hit clock, like a 7/7. Like the Hunted Horror is really good because it's 2 mana to make him a 7/7 trample.
Sure,
that doesn't have that downside of giving them tokens, and then you can 3-hit them out.
Yeah,
rather than like, okay, I need, you might want to detour and just do that and take somebody out early, and then find the Vector Asp infect thing later on.
Sure.
The other thing that we saw with it was pretty cool was like the Ascended Ivinkar. He can just come into play, and then all the non-black creatures get -1/-1. So he can just wipe out.
Yeah, that one actually really hurt.
Yeah, wipe out over and over and over again a bunch of non-black creatures that are tokens.
Yeah.
Or really, like you say, mess with people's calculus because they're all -1. So it's kind of like a static, not static, but you never know when it's going to happen kind of thing.
Well, yeah.
The other one that we really liked was that our guy played Marilyn Morning Song before his turn began.
Yeah, so let me read this one off, because typically, okay, anyways, Marilyn of the Morn Song is 1 and 2 black for an elf wizard that's a 2/3 body. Players can't draw cards, but at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player loses 3 life, searches his or her library for a card, puts it into his or her hand, then shuffles his or her library. Like,
so this thing's two-sided.
The benefit is symmetric, but with Lazav the Multifarious, you can do it right you can end step somebody else, so you get the benefit.
Yeah.
And then transform to something different.
Because how much mana is she?
She's 3.
So for 3 mana, like let's set this up. 3 mana. Let's look at for one side. Like we already know, like, yeah, you want to do it during your turn, and then before the turn's over, shift her away because you don't want to give somebody a tutor at their upkeep.
Right.
They'll always tutor the answer or tutor a Tormod's Crypt, God forbid, or something, right? But what you could do instead is their turn's already begun. They've drawn their 1 card.
Yeah.
And then you shift her.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh fuck, it just says players can't draw cards.
Yeah.
It doesn't say the next time they would draw, they tutor instead. It just says at their upkeep, they draw.
Yeah, exactly.
Or they do a tutor.
Yeah.
So now for the rest of their turn, if they planned on drawing any kind of substantial draw, they're not allowed.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the turn ends, and then you shift her away. This is extremely mana intensive. So this is the other part is.
But what he did, he was very opportunistic with it because
he mostly
used it
stuff.
to. He mostly used it to. Oh yeah. He mostly used it to tutor for himself. But I had a. At the end of the game, I had 3 life left. So he transformed it right before my turn
and killed you
and killed me with it.
I remember that.
Like.
That just worked out that way. So
yeah,
he did.
It happened to work out that way.
So that one's another good one. That was another cool one that we saw that he added. So the Hunted Horror to kind of give it a 7-hit clock for 2 mana. You know, because he's operating on a budget. He doesn't want to buy a Phyrexian Dreadnought.
Yeah, Phyrexian Dreadnought, obviously.
Then Malarian Morning Sun, the Event Car was one. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of the opinion that having anything that lets you loot is really good. Mm-hmm. But he just wasn't, I don't know, he wasn't into that, I guess. Like he did put Rexiel in to kind of run around and grab instants of sorceries that he wanted.
Which was cool.
So he grabbed a few tutors from more people or removal or something. Like he was, yeah. I think the weaknesses are, obviously the graveyard. He said that his ass was gaping the entire time, to use his words.
Yeah, he had one creature pretty much every game.
So it's kind of hard. So No Mercy propaganda. Yeah, he built his as a budget, so No Mercy's kind of too much for the
out of the range
for the budget. But yeah, like propaganda, things like that.
Yeah.
To do it, but it's
Lazav the
cool.
Multifarious is dope. I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I think he's a less convoluted Mercil.
Yeah,
like Mercil can get pretty convoluted.
Yeah, like Mercil's stuff is less vulnerable, but he's much more sure. So it's pretty cool. Dimir's fascinating. I think it seems to me like it's in this place where it's maybe getting a little bit of the evolution that we've seen in Izet. Where
hopefully
I think for years Dimir has been, it's just like, you know, like we talked about, like kind of the intellectual theoretical side of it has not been available, and they've been shoving Mill down our throats aggressively hard. And Lazav, I think, is interesting because the previous emulation of Lazav was still interested in just milling everybody.
Yeah, and he can only shift on other people's stuff. He can't.
Yeah. Whereas this one was like, I just want to get stuff. I'm worried more about myself, which I have a preference for. Let me be able to position myself to kind of control other people, but dig my own library for the things I want to do. I think that's actually, he's representative of more of what we're talking about.
Brad put the old Lazav in his deck because he's like, it's a hex-proof, whatever the fuck. Like,
why not?
I don't know if that'll ever be realized, but yeah, it's Lazav imitating Lazav.
It's that's Inception levels of weird.
Right. Yeah, that one's hard. Anyway, yeah, we're done with the guilds, man, for now anyway.
Yeah. I don't know what else we're doing.
Yeah, we haven't even thought about that.
This is the end of our schedule. We got some work to do.
Yeah, we've got some work. But yeah, that's it, man. How do you feel? How do you feel about our arc of, you know, our series?
Out of these 5 guilds that we've covered so far, I think I feel I really enjoyed Izet a lot. I haven't really put much time ever in designing around Izet, and I had a lot of fun with that.
And you built the deck.
And I built the deck. I actually made it. So we can probably show that off in action sometime. You built yours too. I mean, you had the stuff.
Yeah, it was pretty much pre-made,
it was there. I think I enjoy Golgari. I learned some things from exploring Golgari. Selesnya, I'm a little dried up on. I think you and I are both frustrated with Boros.
Yeah.
And Dimir, I'm intrigued by. I'm always intrigued when I spend time with Dimir. But I just don't, I guess what I'm saying with that, kind of giving that umbrella of all of the things we've talked about in the last 5 episodes, is that I don't think in terms of design that there's equity across all of them.
No.
And that's a bummer to me, because I would like to spend time with other color combinations that maybe don't have what we need to do that yet. Yeah.
For me, it's actually been harder than the mono doing these guilds. The monos were easy to kind of, if it's so focused, it's easy to like, hey man, it's green, you ramp, you know, it's white, you
go.
Yeah. So it felt like you're trying to, I don't know, you're straddling two two worlds.
And
it's hard to say, well, this is what this specific, because a lot of this is like pushed on us, like black and blue, like it never needed to be Mill. It just ended up being.
Yeah, I think our conversation about Dimir is perfectly emblematic of that idea.
Yeah,
it doesn't need to be
themes,
Mill. It just so happens to be that that's what they've pushed.
Yeah, like, so you would think that there's a commander out there that, I don't know, there's some that like embody the color pairing on one side and the other. I think the original Niv Mizzet does that.
Yeah.
Like when you draw a card, you deal damage. So blue to draw, red to burn. But there, when you look at black, it's like, what is it? When you draw a card, you destroy a creature. That's too ridiculous.
Yeah,
when you draw
excessive.
A card, you tutor a card. That's still too ridiculous.
Yeah.
So a lot of it, like, it just couldn't be done.
Sure.
You know, so yeah, I don't know. It was hard. This is hard. So we still have 5 left.
Yeah.
And then, we're going to hit the Rakdos, the Simic, the Orzhov, who else? The Azorius, and then, the Gruul. The Gruul. When we get her back around. When we return to Ravnica for the the 8th time. This will be the 8th set, the eighth release that takes place there.
Yeah, because Guilds of Ravnica is the 7th set that's been there. So.
Good God. Dude, it's like I was saying, man, it's the Goonies 3, The Rise of Baby Goonie. Or Goonies 7, sorry. Goonies 7, The Rise of Baby Goonie, dude.
Hey, thanks for joining us for the Legendary Creature Podcast. And thanks for joining us for our discussion about Dimir. Maybe as you go do your own exploration of Dimir, come back and report to us when, it makes sense. Special thanks to the Artist Protector 101 for letting us use their music. The song this episode is Hold On. The album is Dream. Check them out. They're very gracious for letting us use their music. Also follow us on Twitter at legend_creature. Find our YouTube channel, Legendary Creature Podcast. And rate us where you found us. iTunes, Stitcher, what have you. It helps us when you rate the podcast and when you share with us the ideas that you have as well. Until next time, enjoy the streets of Ravnica.